Sooners of Oklahoma at 12-0 and still looking for respect nationwide.
There we go. What's going on, Sooner Nation? How you guys doing? This is Mackey from the Damian Mack Show. Excited. Doing my 10 thoughts live and direct tonight. Obviously, yesterday we played a phenomenal game against Temple, University of Temple. And if you've known, I've been doing 10 thoughts. Guys, I've been doing 10 thoughts probably going on 7 or 8 years. I started a long time ago on the original Rivals. Shout out to Josh and the rest of the crew over there. Gave me a platform to do my 10 thoughts, and then started doing some on YouTube just a little bit. Barry and I started our show, and so 10 thoughts has kind of turned into a thing. And super appreciate the people who have paid close attention to it. It's been something that a lot of people asked for. They DM me. I've posted on different platforms in the past, but tonight I'm going to do it for the first time ever live. If you guys post some questions in the comment section, I may take a couple minutes at the end to answer some questions, but I really want to just dial in on us. All right, we're just about wrapped up with our preseason, and as far as I'm concerned, done a really good job, right? Getting ourselves in a good situation in terms of obviously wins and loss, but also really just identity. I think since BV's been here, transitioning between Lebby and then Seth and then Joe John, finally finding an offensive identity that gives him the ability to focus on what he's really, really talented in, and that is being a coordinator, right? And then on the other side of the ball, I think understanding and probably moving a little bit past the pride that comes with the ego, or even just the expectations that comes with being a CEO in HBC, right? And saying, you know what? Sometimes being the best HBC head ball coach is just being where I'm dominant and leveraging someone else in their skill set. I don't have to be a master of everything. I can be a master on defense and go out there and recruit a stud on the offensive side of the ball. And I got to tell you, this year just feels different. And if you know me and just my kind of philosophy around the game, around OU, around the program, is it's not rose-colored glasses. I'm not a guy who's going to sell you, you know what I'm saying, happiness and daffodils and rainbows and unicorns. All right, I like to tell the truth. I like to come from a lens of what's going to take to become successful. And really, I really love when we can talk about this thing from the lens of championship culture. I was lucky enough to play at OU when we turned the program around, when we went from regular, which is a word I like to use, to bona fide dogs. All right, no one can ever take that away from us. No one can ever take that away from me. I know what it feels like to go from and also ran a mediocre program. I would even say, have lost momentum to take the top, winning the Natty, best team in America. All right, undefeated. And so today I want to specifically speak to Temple. And when I do 10 thoughts, just for some of the people who's probably never read how I do 10 thoughts, I want to give you guys just some keys to it. Number one, we do every position group. So you'll hear me speak to the position groups. Sometimes it's short and sweet. Sometimes it's a little longer. If you've heard our pod, you know I can go on rants. All right, so be prepared for that. I always talk about the coaching as its own special component as well. I think it's really important to know and understand, right, what the coach's expectations were. All right. And then last but not least, guys, sometimes there's a little bit of, mixed up a little bit in there, right? Sometimes if the identity of the team is off or the energy is off, or if they're doing something well, and I want to make sure something that's pointed out that we speak to, that we talk about, I also will take time for that. And if this works, if you guys say, hey, Mackie, I kind of like the live, I want you to do it like this, and you guys participate in the comment section, especially the live community, right? Obviously, this is going to go and be published on our YouTube channel. And obviously, sometimes we have 100, 200 comments on some of the videos we post. If I get a chance, I absolutely will go back and deal with those as well. But those of you that are with me live, Roy Lee is in here again. Roy Lee, you kill me, bro. But anyway, let me just show some love to the guys that are in here bright and early. We got 33 people with us live. I see Jimmy. Jimmy's a regular. Mac, I see you. Also a regular. David Whitehead. TPG Triple R1. I added the Triple R. Killer Horse, I see you. Roy Lee, that's my brother, man. Roy, our gala is in December, bro. I look forward to seeing you. James, I see you. I see the question as well. Hall of Fame football. Yep, that's a regular. That's a regular. Well, anyway, guys, let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to say is thematically, seasons generally have themes. And thus far, I think it's really important for us to recognize the temperament of this team. These guys are not playing like the teams of yesteryear, right? I would even say 10, 15 years. I would say at any given time that Lincoln Riley or anyone since then has run the program, we haven't seen a team like this one that has the ability to play complementary football. And I do believe that that's something we have to attribute to BV. And I do believe that's something that comes from having identity on offense and an identity on defense where you don't feel like you're operating from a deficit. All right. And so I'm watching this team and I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic. And I say, okay, right, we play Illy State, the first, second quarter of the game, and we're playing a backup against a dramatically inferior opponent. Right? You kind of chalk it. You're looking at fundamentals. How does the O-line block? How do the receivers look? Who looks comfortable? But you can't really assess, right? Then you play Michigan. Week 2, obviously 2 powerhouses, 2 blue bloods, right? The Maize and Blue coming to Norman. And I'm watching that game, and I'm saying, you know, if you heard our pregame pod, I was talking about I want to see if we're going to get out physical. And I'll never forget, first possession of the game, you see their offense run out there, huge dudes, and you see our defense go out there like, oh, we're kind of respectably smaller than them, right? But boom, from the first snap to the fourth quarter, we are physically in it. In fact, we're dishing. Like, we out there letting them know, like, you at our home field, bro, you got to see us. And to me, that won over some of the questions, the wonderings that I had, because you guys know what I'm talking about. We've watched the games together, and we've seen OU have to finesse its way or have to kind of outwit, outsmart, right? Playing against teams where they could just literally out-physical us. And there were some years where it could be a Tech. It could be a TCU, right? We've seen years where a West V comes to town and they're like, oh, they look more physical than we look. Well, Michigan came to town last Saturday, and I got to tell you, the more physical team won. And that's a theme. All right. And then obviously this past Saturday, going to Philly, what they call the link, going to the link. And again, a game where more than anything else, I think if someone said, Mackey, how do you capture that in one word? The word I would use pretty confidently is clean. And not clean from the expectation of perfection, right? Because we'll talk about it in the position group. I generally discuss first is the QB, and we all saw he wasn't perfect. He had some times during the game where he was off kilter, and some of the pace on his throws were a little off. But offense, defense, special teams, clean, right? Progression throughout the game, how we picked up and answered the bell. In terms of blocking schemes, in terms of blitzing schemes, in terms of pre-snap, post-snap, aggression, clean. All right. And then, of course, like just the guys out there balling, seeing guys making plays. You know, you'll hear me often say, right, you don't want the scheme to make the play. The teams that can play championship caliber ball are the team that have the better Jimmys and Joes. Oh, Mackey, it's Temple. It is Temple. But I got to tell you, I've seen plenty of games where we're playing Handkerchief University A&T School for the Blind, and it just happened to have a dude we can't cover. They just happen to have a quarterback that we can't corral. Houston last year comes to mind. Their quarterback, we couldn't stop him last year. Tulane a couple years ago, we couldn't stop their quarterback, right? A lot of their guys. I watched that game, a Temple team who had scored 50-plus on its 2 previous opponents. Those guys weren't coming in scared. Those guys were coming with an expectation to shock the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? We played clean. And not to get too excited about it as if, you know, we got to beat our chest out because we beat Temple. But I can think of many years in the past where we would have played a team that was lesser. I just named a couple a second ago, and we would have needed to, you know, throw some trick plays out there or get turnovers. Guys, do you guys realize we have no turnovers on the year? I think -5 now as a team. That's a bad thing because we need to be able to take advantage of those, but it's a really good thing too because we aren't giving up points. We're probably 50% of possessions are 3 and out or more. I don't have the stats in front of me. And so what does that tell you? That tells you we have room to improve. That tells you we have areas we can ascend, and the foundation that says the floor is really high. OU is dominating on defense without having to depend on a million turnovers, without having to depend on freakish plays. They can just play sound, physical, you know the word? Clean football. So let's dive into it, guys. I'm going to start with the quarterback. I'm glad he's our quarterback, right? Mateer has played a hell of a first 3 games of the season, running the ball, making plays with his legs to throw the ball, throwing the ball in rhythm, throwing the ball with pace, different arm angles. We've seen him make low throws at all 3 levels. And I'm here to tell you guys it's exciting to see a team where the quarterback is an actual addition. I would even say he's the alpha. He's the main dude on offense. And so thinking about his game, guys, I like the way we use him in some of the respects where defenses have to account for him in the run game. I like the way he takes command of the huddle, both pre-snap at the snap of the ball and then pre-snap at the snap and then post-snap, meaning, right, he's able to make adjustments at the line of scrimmage. All right, when he gets to the line of scrimmage, if he sees something he doesn't like, he'll audible, check to something, tag something. Right. And then, of course, after the play, he can make things happen on his own. He can manufacture a play over and beyond the design of the play. Big deal. And he can do that with his legs. And he can do that with his arm. And he can do that with his mind. When I say mind, that means he can scramble and then influence the defense to come up, or influence the defense to back up, or influence the defense to get right out leveraged, and then he can take advantage of what he's exploited. Guys, that's a big deal. That's something that a lot of quarterbacks can't do, won't do. I never saw Jackson consistently do that. And to see him do that first 3 games out the gate against a really good opponent in Michigan, big time. As it speaks specifically to Temple, I think it's really important to say probably his least accurate game of the season. He had players open. We talked about on the post-game pod that we recorded earlier. We have Keontae on an over route. I don't know if it's got to be an over because Keontae generally lines up on the left-hand side of the formation. But Keontae is running an over route across the field, second quarter, just misses him. It's flat out. Misses him. It's a 20-yard throw. It's a layered throw. It's the same throw he throws against Hilly State. It's an easier throw than the one he does to Satania against Michigan down the sideline, where he really threads it in there, right? But he misses, and there's not a lot of chaos in front of him. It's not as if he's being pressured. It's just inaccurate, and I think there's to be said something about that game. And by the way, still played a phenomenal game, but I think he is to be critiqued as an individual. We expect to be a Heisman frontrunner. And I think if you asked him today how he says he played, he'd say, wasn't my best effort. I definitely left some meat on the bone, right? I definitely left some opportunities on the field. And I want to make sure in the future that doesn't happen again. Quarterback, first time this season, his grade, an 85. I think I gave him a 94 week 1 and a 95 week 2. By the way, a 95 and he didn't play that well, but man, he was the difference in the game against Michigan. He was the difference. All right. He left some throws out there that he could have hit even in the Michigan game. I think it was more so arm angle issues, less than it was accuracy. The accuracy was on point. It was just balls that got tipped and moved around because of the sidearm. Next up, running backs. Dare I say, we have a stable of competent running backs who can run to daylight. Dare Mackey say 2 weeks in a row positive things about Barnes? If you're somebody who listens to us, you guys know that I just have high expectations. Guys, when I played for OU, if I didn't play well, I didn't play. When I played for OU, if I have mental busts, I sat my tail on the sidelines. When I played for OU, there was competition every Tuesday, every Wednesday in practice. Roy Lee is on with us. He'll tell you. We consistently had to show up. It was every week. If I didn't show up on a Tuesday and Wednesday practice, and on Thursday practice, if I wasn't clean, had drops, mental busts, wrong routes, missed a shoulder on, if I'm trying to reach somebody and I didn't reach him, if I'm supposed to kick out and I let him, cross my face, guys, there's a high potential I wouldn't play. Like that's what the standard was, right? So when I critique, sometimes I complain, I know, but generally when I can critique, it's from the standpoint of go be great, right? OU, we don't expect average. We don't expect average. By the way, shout out to Roy Lee. Hey, Roy, you out here giving $50 tips, man. He gave me $50. I appreciate that, Roy. I'll put that in the gas tank. But anyway, yeah, Roy Lee said, I ain't lying, right? He'll tell you, like, it was a dogfight every Tuesday, everyone. But it was a dogfight between us, and then it was a dogfight between us and the defense. Every Wednesday for 10 minutes, we had team blitz pickup. And I have said this on the show before. Roy's on here tonight. He can validate. It was the 10 minutes a week we went against our first D. First O versus first D. By the way, we didn't tackle to the ground, but it's full go. They're bringing their stuff. We're bringing our stuff. And it's mano-y-mano. When I tell you guys that session in film was so real, it got to the point sometime where Spurrier would be like, is Roy in? We're not going to watch this rep, because Roy would just, he would wreak havoc on the entire offense. Linemen getting cussed out, running backs getting cussed out, we getting cussed out. I mean, Roy he just had a way of doing that. Sometimes I had to let my boy have it, though. We had to, we picked our spots. Him and Jay Norm used to have some good battles sometimes, too. But Barnes, back to he's playing better. And I want to be honest with you guys when I say this, guys. I don't mind him being the first back who trots out there if the OC has a plan for him that works. I'm here to tell you, last 2 games, the plan for Barnes has looked dramatically improved. By the way, I want to put this out there. Everyone says, Barnes goes out there first because he blocks the best. The position is called a running back, not pass blocking back. That's number 1. Number 2, on Saturday, go watch the film. All the running backs until the fourth quarter, when Hawkins came into the game, blocked exceptionally. Their depth, physicality, their thud, and I think the part that people are most concerned about, which is their mental capacity to find the blitzer. I saw Blaylock step up into the right gap. I saw X-Rab step up into the right gap, and obviously Barnes did a good job too. And guys, it's always not easy to find that second level defender. They might be coming through the A, they might be coming to the B, they might be coming late, they might be coming from the outside the tackle, right? You've got to find that. It's a satellite. You go inside out, you look play side. Whichever side the lineman or man on, that's their side. Whichever side they're zone blocking, you've got to fill in the gap. All right, and I saw all 3 of them do well. So Barnes, I like the little package they have for him. Now, we can talk the tendencies, right? There's a tendency that if he's in, there's a higher likelihood it's not going to be a run. But Arbuckle's savvy enough to let the other teams know, we'll run the ball with him too. Then there's the guy who I think is the bell cow now, the guy who I think has the highest ceiling, the guy who has shown he can get tough yards up the middle, he can beat you to the edge, he can run with physicality, he can run with some wiggle, and he's a true freshman. Blaylock looks good. Blaylock looks really good. In fact, I would say if they had to do it all over again, he's probably the kid who should have gotten the biggest NIL package. In fact, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year, with all due respect, because, you earn your keep. And we'll get to Ott here in a second. I know a lot of people are asking about Ott and what his potential is. And I'll kind of give you guys some word that I've heard secondhand, not firsthand, but some secondhand information that's been passed my way. But I am trending up on the running backs. I also, before we transition away from them, want to speak to the rotation. I've loathed some of DeMarco's rotations in the past. 2 years ago comes to mind immediately. Tyree is having a great game, and he's moving the chains, and he's running through tackles. Kansas comes to mind. Okie State comes to mind. By the way, I think we find a way to lose both of those games 2 years ago, but we're rotating him out. God knows why. I don't know why. Granted, I'm not in practice, but I'm watching the game, and it's the second, third, fourth quarter, and here we have the guy who's playing the best, and we keep rotating him out. What are we doing? Right? I don't see that so much this year. In fact, I would even say in this game specifically, the running back rotation, it seemed to me like it had a lot of clarity. If you go watch the game, Barnes Barnes plays, blocks well, has a couple nice runs, scores a rushing touchdown, has a nice jump cut. Okay, everybody, let me say it. Let me say it one more time for all the people who think I'm a hater. He had a nice jump cut into the B gap, scores, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. And then they run a delay to him on like third down, maybe late in the first quarter, early in the second quarter, and he kind of pussyfoots it. He's kind of, kind of the Barnes we've seen before. He doesn't know where to go. He's not really sure of himself. He's not moving with pace and urgency. And after that play, you know what happens? He sits. And then Blaylock comes in. And then you see Blaylock, and we always talk about, oh, man, we want somebody to be able to get comfortable, get some momentum, right? Get some carries under their belt. Blaylock plays 2, 3, 4 possessions. He does. And I have on 2 chains. Thank you very much. I have on 2. By the way, this is the one my brother gave me before he passed. And this is the one I bought before my brother passed. And I promised him I'd never take it off. So I never take these chains off. Roy Lee Sanchez. Yeah. I used to rock your chains. Yeah. Roy has some nice chains back in the day, by the way. I used to, when we was young lads, I used to wear them. But I think it was really important to see coach give their running backs a chance to get comfortable. And I honestly believe, guys, that has a lot to do with Arbuckle saying, hey, this is the way we do it. Hey, this is what I want to see. It feels to me, and I could be wrong, but Lebby being an ex-Sooner, knowing who DeMarco was, and Joe John and Seth both being ex-Sooners, knowing who DeMarco was, I feel like there was a little more deference to him, where they felt like he had kind of some pedigree as an NFL dude. I think he was a league leading rusher in the NFL, things of that nature. Feels to me more so like Arbuckle's like, hey, bro, this is how I want it done. Execute it. I like that. All right. And so running backs, I've been scoring them fairly low. By the way, X-Rob gets a touchdown. I want to tell everybody tonight, I believe we're going to need X-Rob big time in some games. We're going to need him. He didn't really get a chance to run downhill a lot. He caught the pass for the touchdown, which was cute. I like that for him, give him some confidence. He's a guy that I think if we don't use him, he's a guy that I would be looking at, seeing if he's looking for greener pastures down the road. That's just the nature of the way the game is played now. I bet he wants to be in an I formation or in some type of pistol formation or some type of power scheme where they're pulling the guard and kicking out, or even the outside zone scheme where he can one cut, get up in the A gap, B gap, cut across the formation. It'll be interesting to see if we go that direction with him, because I think he could be a good value add. He's got a different body type, and he's a guy that can move people when there isn't much there. Running backs as a group, highest score of the year, I believe. Blaylock goes for 100 yards. X-Rob scores a touchdown. Barnes looks good in the fashion in which they're using him. I give the running backs an 86. I think the running backs as a unit played better than Mateer did in his position. Next up, tight ends. I just want to say short, sweet, and straight to the point. I'm going to continue to pat myself on the back because when we found out that Cannon's going to be moving to the offensive side of the ball, I did kind of tongue-in-cheek say he couldn't play any worse than he did at backer. I was not a huge fan of his at backer. And again, sooner to sooner, I got to go in that building, and I'm sure people look at me sideways if they hear some of the things I say, but I tell the truth because I also said I think he could be a baller. The athleticism, check. The comfortability, guys, it's check. Again, Roy's on. He'll tell you when we played Pee Wee ball, right? I was extremely comfortable playing with the ball in my hands because I had the ball in my hands my entire life through high school. When I got to OU, it was 1 year of defense. And of course, it was a year I was rehabbing. So when the opportunity came to play offense again, I felt extremely comfortable. Mike Leach coming in. We're going to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game. We're going to have, we got 3 or 4 different receivers, and we had 2 returning receivers on scholarship. Hello. Talk about opportunities. Hence, me, Kurt, and Andre Woolfolk all say, screw defense. We're going to go play offense, right? Same thing for Kanik. Go watch his high school film. Kid's a stud. And the one thing that I will give extra props on is his natural hands catching ability. He catches the ball very naturally, very soft, puts it away very easily. He's not fighting the ball. He doesn't have a lot of drops and double bobbles. Looks good. Now, he's a willing participant to block. but he's still throwing that chicken wing. Someone has to teach him how to use his hands. All right. If you watch on Barnes' touchdown, he gets housed by the backer, by the way. But him getting housed by the backer gives Barnes an opportunity to get into the end zone. And I couldn't imagine trying to block 6'2", 235-pound dudes who practice backer every day as a guy who's learning how to be a fully comprehensive, right, tight end. Proud of him. Going into last week, he was leading the country in like yards as a tight end. First year dude. Right? I mean, he made some critical plays for us. 3rd and 19, first quarter. That's a critical play. First couple plays of the game, he's sitting in the hole, right? He understands coverage well. He knows when to run through through man coverage and when to sit in windows and zone coverage. And like I said before, guys, he's a willing participant in the blocking game. It looks to me like he's better at knowing what his assignment is. Week 1, it looked like he busted on a couple of his assignments. This game, I didn't see any glaring issues, just some physicality stuff that he can clean up, learn how to leverage his body, and continue to improve. But yeah, I give the tight end group. Huggins got a little bit something cooking in there. I don't know that we saw any other tight ends maybe later in the game, but solid game by that unit. I think I gave them an 84. My concern is going into SEC, teams trying to beat him up in the run game, on the edge, be physical with him to take away some of the oomph that he's going to possess in the passing game. But he's a problem. We line up in 11 personnel, whether he's in line or he's in a slot position. Defenses have to ask themselves, are we going to be okay covering him with the safety? Do we think a backer can carry him into the hole and into the corner? Because I promise you, Mateer and Arbuckle and the rest of the crew are looking for him and trying to isolate him in certain situations because, I mean, dude ran a 10-3. By the way, I never ran a 10. I think my fastest ever was like a 10-9, 10-8. Granted, I stopped sprinting my sophomore year, but still, right? Like moving. He would have been the fastest guy in my high school. And we were damn good in track and field. Like national, state meet competitors, the whole deal. So seeing him have success makes my heart smile. 84 for the tight ends. I want to speak to the line, right? A lot of people complaining about the offensive line. By the way, a lot of questions. Fair. Very fair to say that there have been questions about the offensive line, obviously due to last season. But here's what I'll say, guys. The offensive line is generally assessed as a unit. If you have an offensive line where you're like piecemealing or siloing out individual positions, that's not a good group. Again, I use this reference point all the time because I think there's a lot of similarities. But guys, go back and watch our 2000 squad. Frank Romero was like a second team All Big 12 guy. Bubba Bertram was a try-hard team guy, tough as nails, whatever he needed to do. Stocker's not on that team. Matt O'Neill's not on that team. Howard Duncan's one of our guys. Al Basinger's one of our guys. I think Mike Skinner, right? That's our starting offensive line. They had some deficiencies, and so you know what we did? We supplemented our ability or lack thereof in running the football with quick game. We kept defenses on their toes by playing basketball on grass, hitting the slants, hitting the flats, hitting arrows, hitting hitches, hitting bubble screens, tunnel screens, slip screens, all right? And what it does is it takes away a little bit of that extra, right, beef. Your defensive line are wondering if there's a screen. Obviously, the infamous shovel. I don't know if you call it a shuttle pass or shovel. We called it shovel. All right. And so I say that to say, keep looking for that. If you notice, they ran a lot of quick games Saturday. They didn't hit on all of it. Mateer was missing some of those plays. But I think Arbuckle was saying, hey, there are some things that we're continuing to improve upon. We're clearly going to run the ball, no question. But to supplement it, to make people think over and beyond, we're just going to try to ram our heads into a brick wall. We're going to supplement it with, right? You guys saw the jet sweep pass, right? When I was in college, we handed it off and it was rushing yards. Now they just kind of do the 1 yard touch pass to pass. I bet 60 yards of Arbuckle's total yards are that jet sweep to run. That 3v2 screen, when we line up and pre-snap, we see there's 3 guys on the edge for us and 2 guys on the edge for them, and there's an overhang, and we're banking on Mateer throwing a strike, getting the ball to the third receiver before that overhang can get there. That's a run. To run. Definitely. All right. Kemp was on that squad too, but I think the starting five on that team was Frank at left tackle, Howard Duncan at left guard, Bubba at center, Skins at right guard, and then Al Basinger at right tackle. Kemp got some burn and was playing, but if I remember correctly, that was the primary five that we went with during that season. But yep, Kemp was definitely in the mix. A guy that was getting some quality minutes and time as well. But anyway, guys, I'm optimistic about the offensive line, and here's why. I want to speak about Howland. Howland's a guy. If you watch the game, he gets a guy beats him with speed. Third quarter, it's one of their few sacks. I think it's their first sack. He just beats him off the line of scrimmage. But when Fasusi comes back, and I saw KJ Goaded, that's a good question, right? He was in a boot Saturday. I hope they were being precautionary because I think if they needed him, they could tape it up and put him in there. They wanted to give him an extra week. I think worst case scenario, if he can't go Auburn, which won't be good, Howland's a phenomenal backup. That's good quality depth at the backup. But we need Fasusi. It's night and day. His athleticism, he gets to the spot a second faster, giving him more time to react. He also has longer arms, and he's stronger in his base, so he's harder to move. But if we have Fasusi back, Simmons played well. 54 played well, and I was a big EPL guy. He's also really good quality depth. Ozita's better. He's more consistent. And so as a unit, those five guys, they're going the right direction. We can't act like they're not. They're not Tennessee. Tennessee's O-line's legit. Who else has a legit O-line? Notre Dame, their O-line's legit. Penn State, their O-line's legit, right? But our offensive line is marketably improved. I think at the tackle positions, we upgraded both sides. I think at the center position, after Everett sat, I think it was really helpful, all right, for I forgot the kid's name, I can't say his name, but the longer, taller center who has a little bit more base to him, so he can't get pushed right back into the play, right? That bodes well for us. And again, here's what I want us to think about that we haven't seen in a long time. Number one, we can play complementary football. Who remembers? By the way, in the chat, tell me I'm crazy. Who remembers for the better part of 12, 14, probably 15 years where we had a ridiculously amazing offense and we just had to pray the defense could get a stop? We had to pray the defense could get a turnover. We had to pray the other team would get a holding call. We had to pray like, oh, God, please make a mistake. It wasn't very often that we were saying, our guy's going to make a play. That just wasn't something as an Oklahoma Sooner. And it hurts my heart because, Gordon, God knows, my years and even I'd say 6, 7, 8 years after that, right? The defense was legit up until about 07, 08, 09, right? Those guys was out there getting to it. It feels good to have a defense that say, you know what? It's not necessarily a bad thing to punt. Right? It was a very stressful life, right, Creole? By the way, I'm probably like 1/8 Creole. Shout out to Creole. My grandma's from Shreveport, Louisiana. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And I know we have PTSD and always think like, we got to score. We actually don't have to score every possession. Sometimes it's okay to play complementary football, punt the ball, and let our defense wreak havoc because our defense can wreak havoc. But as an offensive line, I think this is a game where they are headed in the right direction. Am I ready to give them an 80 yet? Probably not. But I think they're a 79. I think they're still the weakest unit on the offensive side of the ball, without question. Yeah, I think we can all agree that that's absolutely probably the case. But do I think they are the ugly redhead stepchild sieve of a position, that is just terrible like they have been in some of the prior years? I don't. Do I think our offensive coordinator has a plan and has looked at their attributes and looked at some of the areas they need to improve and say, okay, how do we maximize potential while also minimizing destruction by putting them in position to be successful versus putting them in position to get their tails kicked? I do. I also believe there's some things that he's been holding back. Look out for us to run the jet sweep and run inside zone off of it. Look for us to run the jet sweep. It's going to be a handoff. It's going to be a pass. I know we tried the double reverse against Michigan, and that's something that I think that's one of their specials that they really want to do, right? Look for us to run more power in SEC. We haven't shown a lot. We ran the counter couple times. In fact, on Mateer's QB counter, you see Simmons running with him about 15, 20 yards down the field before Mateer passes him up. But look for us to pull one guard, kick out, or lead through the hole and cover up a backer. And I believe that's something we do with X-Rob. I think that's a second, third, fourth quarter thing we break out in games where we need to play keep away, kind of like we did against Michigan. We can't expect Mateer to do that every game. Carry the ball 19 times, get hit 12, 13 times, right? And then make it through the whole SEC schedule. Last but not least, guys, I want to speak to the wide receiver unit. I like the unit. Sucks to see Keontae get a concussion. That was I have a question, and I think I would know pretty well. Was that not targeting? Right? If RMT is targeting, isn't the literal face mask to face mask deal where Keontae is trying to catch the ball and he literally stops him in his track? To me, that's targeting. But I digress. I do like the physical brand of football in which that we played, and I was a receiver who had to take some hits over the middle. If you go back, I'll tell you guys, 99 season, we're playing Colorado. Roy's probably going to laugh because there's a newspaper article with me literally parallel to the ground, about 2 feet in the air. I catch a mesh route, and Hype leads me right into the backside corner. Thank God he's 5'9", 165. His name is Damian Wheeler. I'll never forget him because he lit my tail up. In fact, I don't go back in that game. I said, Coach, my ribs was blazing. I didn't break any, but I was toe up. And then in the 99 bowl game, we play Ole Miss, same play. We're running a mesh route, and backer. I don't know what his name was, but he told me up too. I like what they're doing at receiver. Satania at H, he's gritty. He'll take something short, make a guy miss, turn into a 12, 15, 20-yard gain. I bet you he houses 1 or 2 before the year is up. I had my reservations with Burks at the Z position. I thought he was an H, meaning a slot guy. No, he's a solid Z. He earned my respect against Michigan with some of those plays he made 1v1 in their corner. In fact, he scores a 95-yard touchdown. Go back and watch the game. He scores a 95-yard touchdown if Mateer puts the ball out in front on that first down on the 5-yard line. Oh, he catches it on the sidelines. In fact, it's the one. I think it's the one where he barely gets his foot in. Go watch the play. He's got him beat by 2 yards. If Mateer just puts it out in front and lets him run under, it's a 95-yard touchdown. Kid's playing well. He's strong with the hands. They're finding and generating ways to get him the ball, an extension of running back, which I think is good. Keontae, I thought is going to be a valuable X. Obviously, I'd presume he misses a week, probably 2. His concussion looked pretty severe. But word on the street is that Giovanni Gibson's going to be ready to play. And I'm here to tell you, he's got a body type that is going to be imposing. And if he can get back to what we heard in terms of what his potential was and what he was doing in practice, that could be an area where we don't see a lot of drop off or maybe even some improvement. We'll see. I thought Keontae was playing extremely well, but I don't know as of now that we have like a bona fide mismatch at receiver. And if his body and presence can do that, awesome. I'll just put this out there just to do it, just because it's what I see. I'd like for us to find a home for Kerryon. I don't know if he is agile enough to be an every down like X receiver, right? If you know, the X receiver runs a lot of slants, a lot of curls, a lot of fades, a lot of the backside over routes and dig routes. But I do believe he's a guy we could sub-package with a guy like Kanik and use him as a mismatch in the hole, in the slot, a small Y, a big H, right? I think there's some things we can leverage with him when he's not going against the best DB or the corner or the number 2 corner. What if he's going against the nickel? Or what if they've got a backer in because or maybe they have a nickel in because they have him identified as a small, right? So the defensive DC is looking at personnel and they see, 2 receivers, a running back, 3 receivers, a running back, and Kerryon. They might treat that like 10 personnel, no tight end. So what if we put him in at the small wide position? What does that matchup look like? You know what I mean? That's something where what if you got Kanik and Kerryon in the slots and you've got Burks and Gibson or Burks and Satania on the outsides? Those are some of the things we're going to be able to leverage. And I'm looking forward to seeing if, Arbuckle's going to use him very much alike into Andrews. If you guys remember, Andrews came in as a receiver from Arizona, I believe, and he had a very similar body type to Kerryon. Now, I don't know if Kerryon can put on the weight and Andrews eventually put on, but I do know I think his skill set is being a mismatch versus just being a bona fide X. Just my opinion. You guys let me know what you think. Give the receivers an 80, no drops, no tugs. Oh, no. Did Burks get him one? Did Burks get him a tug? I think Burks got himself a tug, didn't he? One tug. Still, 87. Nothing too crazy, right? I don't think they merit a 90. Moving over to the defensive side, my favorite, I'm an offensive guy. I mean, obviously, most of you guys know that. My favorite position group on this team is D-line. Specifically, tackles. I think we have as good a defensive tackle group as there is in America. I believe the most talented of the four is Jaden Jackson. Guys, he is hell on wheels. And what he lacks in, I don't know, being 6'5", who cares? 6'1.5", 6'2", and blowing your ass up every game. Guys, every game. It's every game. It's every game. He's technically sound, he's ox strong, and he's quick. Love to see him play. With that being said, the highest ceiling is still Stone. Stone is able to do things the other guys can't do, although Jaden does things the other guys can't do too. Seeing Stone and some of the plays in which he flashes, if you guys saw how quick he split that line where he makes the play on that 3rd and short, I believe it is. If you guys see where he comes back, and it should have been a sack. I think they give him a sack, but it's a TFL instead. I told you I was having a conversation, or I said this on a post-game pod. I was having a conversation with Lance, and we were texting during the game. And I said, man, he does some stuff, Tommy Harris. Whoa, D-Mac. Don't be comparing him to Tommy Harris. I said, I didn't say he was Tommy Harris. I just said he makes some plays similar to what it's plays that remind me of Tommy. In other words, they're just certain levels of athleticism that certain guys have. I think I've told the story before, guys, but like Tommy Harris was a good enough athlete to run gassers with us, receivers and DBs, one at our speed. There isn't another guy that was a D lineman or an offensive lineman that even could come close to our time. 3 trippers, not 2 trippers. That means you got to change direction 3 times, 60 yards or 55 yards, whatever the length of the field is. Tommy could run one with us and make our time. That's how freakish of an athlete he was. I don't know if Stone can do that, but what I do know is he has that ceiling in terms of athleticism and what he brings to the table. I think this is Dom's best game as a Sooner, or one of them. Dom is coming into his own. I think Dom is learning how to complement Jaden. But to be very honest with you guys, everyone's keying on Jaden. So Dom is having an opportunity to really cook because he's in the position to get a lot of one-on-ones, right? The double teams are going Jaden's directions more often than not if they can. And that means Dom has to win, and Dom is winning. And so I love to see that. And of course, Grayson Hall probably had his best game of the season too. He's out there making plays. That group, top 4, is, man, they may be the deepest D-line group we've ever had since Bob. And somebody, who do you guys think has been a better group of 4? Production, talent. I mean, Tommy and Dusty's crew. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Can't even lie. Dusty was a dog, but the 4 deep, that they're up there. They're if there's 1 or 2, there's 1 or 2, but I think even that 1 or 2, this group doesn't take a backseat to. If anything, they're at par. And I think this group of 4 has a ceiling that's probably higher than any of them in terms of the entire group. DNs, obviously, we lose RMT for the first half. I hate the play. I heard some people talking about he had a propensity to do that in practice, which is why some of the tackles got concussions, which was interesting to hear. That's interesting, right? If you remember, there's talks of 2 separate tackles. I think it's Fasusi and Simmons, in fact, who both get concussions because, or maybe it's Sexton, but they're getting concussions because of something RMT is doing. I don't believe that's targeting. However, to the letter of the law, I kind of get it. Not excited about it, but yeah, it's not good for us. that he's going to sit. The beauty for us, though, is that we have depth. Marvin Jones Jr. has been better than I anticipated. I watched him a lot at Florida State. He loafed. I thought he'd come here and loaf. He has not. He's played well. Wine has played well. PJ is a guy who, again, program guy. I said this on a pre-pod last week. Guys, he's a guy who next year, 4th year in the program, the light bulb could come on and that athleticism just jumps off the charts. Or he's the guy RMT misses a half and we don't have a huge glaring hole at that position. And so I'm grateful to have PJ, program guy. He's a team dude. Obviously, I think he has a concussion or some type of injury. I don't know if he's going to be on the injury report next week or this week, excuse me. But defensive line, 91. Now, let's double down. Backers, also best game of the season. And I was very impressed with how they played against Michigan. However, against Michigan, there were some gaps. Obviously, by the way, the TD against Michigan is not a backer's fault. Backers have backside and play side A gap. Safeties are alley, and both of them are late. And then the corners in zone, he's on a nub. That means there's no receiver. He should have been filling inside out or outside in. Corner should be filling. Both of the safeties should be filling. Play side safety on that play is Peyton Bowen. Peyton Bowen should be in the hole. RSJ should be scraping over the top. And then Gullery should be cleaning it up too. But anyway, I digress. Backers left no air. Oh, man. They were clean in their fits, very assertive in where they were going, and they hugged guys up. Yep, Sammy, I don't know if you listened to our post-game pod, but Sammy O's best game of the year. By the way, Kip balled. Kip reminded everybody on Saturday that he's the best of the bunch. And Samuel has some really good plays, and he made some really instinctual plays, which I was happy to see because his instincts were feeling a little awkward the first 2 games of the season. But I really liked what I saw from that group on Saturday. I want to specifically speak to BV, though, because this is what happens when you have a championship caliber DC. I said this in the post-game pod, but I want to make sure I say it again here. This game, if you go back and watch Illy State, there's plays where there's a lot of air. And by the way, Illy State missed some stuff. 1, because their quarterback got hurt, and 2, because the defensive line was just thrashing their O-line. So the quarterback's a little, anxiety. But this game, there really was nothing there. Let me tell you what that tells me, guys. If I know BV, coach, and I know you style, week 1 opponent, whether we had a week 0 game or a week 1 game, we never schemed them, ever. Indiana State, nope. UTEP, nope. 2001, we played North Carolina, yes. They had a guy, Curry was their quarterback, and then they had what's the guy's name who's the defensive end who stole Rookie of the Year from Roy Lee. Roy Lee should have been Rookie of the Year that year, but that DN was kind of nice too. I forgot his name. Kid played basketball and football. You guys know who he was. I think he's kind of a semi-Hall of Fame kind of a guy in the NFL. But anyway, here's what I think, and this is, no one's told me this, but I firmly believe that they were just allowing the guys to run their stuff. Meaning OU was just running their stuff. And whatever Illy State did, we had to just play it. This game was different. In this particular game, guys, you could tell BV had schemed specifically Temple. And I bet scoring 50 points 2 games in a row did it. And I bet this being the game before SEC did it. But here's the thing that I think really matters that a lot of people aren't talking about. BV wants to remind people that he knows what the hell he's doing. He probably wanted to remind himself. Can I create a program, a game plan, a scheme to cook? Guys, go watch the first 5 possessions. Possession 1 on money downs, we bring the house. In a 40 front. Possession 2 on money downs, we bring the house with everybody up. Possession 3 on money downs, you know we do? We just play man. Possession 4 on money downs, you know we do? We play off. Their offensive coordinator had to be pissed because he's like, God dang it, every time I think I know what they're going to do, they do something totally different. I'm telling you, number one, it's going to piss them off. It really messed up their ability to try to figure out what to do down in distance. Oh, but the SEC is going to be like, oh, man, right? When teams have tendencies and on third and long, they play man, you know how to create man beaters. And teams, OU used to play 10 yards off. Who remembers the Mike Stoop days where it's 3rd and 7 and we're playing 10 yards off? What the hell are we doing? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Well, how good does it feel to have a DC where in one possession, the money down looks totally different than it does in the next possession. And then the next possession, it looks totally different again. Yes, Hall of Fame said it right. In his bag. And if anybody wants to guess what position BV wants to highlight in his defense, unless your name is Roy Williams and he creates the Roy back position, it's his backers. I'm telling you guys right now, the backers played so well because he schemed Temple. We weren't just running our stuff like we did against Hilly State. I think that's a very subtle nuance that most people don't pick up on that is going to be extremely effective and apparent, and it's more film for the opponent. Just like the 2-point. Mackey, why do you run that 2-point play? That 2-point play, if you know what that 2-point play says, we've got 5 of them. That 2-point play says OU has 4 or 5 plays they can pull out their bag if they need to. You know what that means? Teams have to spend more time on film. Teams have to spend more time practicing it. You know what else it means? Teams can't just pin their ears back when you go into PAT or field goal. Guys, it all matters. I promise you. It matters. You don't want to be that team who's watching film all day because you got to figure out 6 or 7 different checks and or audibles or different pivots the team might do. Backers' best game of the season. If the D line was a 91, I think the backers were a 92, dude. The defensive side of the ball, over 50% of the possessions 3 and out. They averaged less than 2 yards per play on first down. They covered up people, and they were consistently rotating 4 guys. You guys consistently saw Samuel and Owen in, and you guys consistently saw Mac and Kip in. If I were to say a couple critiques, I think teams are going to try to get McKenzie in space. I think teams are going to try to see if they can make Samuel have to overthink. I think Samuel played well because he knew exactly what to do per the scheme against Temple versus Illy State, where he just had to play on instincts. And because of that, it was kind of problematic. Samuel impressed me. Somebody else said it. He was very impressive. Guys, I'm going to do about 5 more minutes, and I'm going to do some Q&A and then jump out of here. DBs. You guys ready? I think we have, if not the best, I think we have one of the best safety units in America. Between Peyton, RSJ, Boggs, and Powers, those 4 dudes. Well, and I guess you got to put Kendall in there too, don't you? KD as in Kendall Daniels, not Dobie. Dobie was playing corner. I'll get to those guys in a second. That unit reminds me of the early 2000s, from the Roy days to the Rodney Poole days. And if you guys remember, Perk was a safety before he. Uh-oh. What was that? What happened? Oh, no, I lost myself for a second. That's an SEC safety group. The only thing I want to see that I haven't seen just of yet is the ball hawk. And I think Peyton is your ball hawk. I think he's going to show us that's a skill set that he's going to unleash once we start playing teams that are going to be more apt to throw the ball down the field over the middle of the field. But those guys, there's no yak. There's nobody catching the ball and running 20, 30. Remember the years, guys, right? Can we all just grab a bottle of scotch? I think I'm going to start doing 10 thoughts with a bottle of scotch, by the way. This might be my one day where I have a glass of scotch. But who remembers the years where there's guys running free 15 yards away from anybody, or nobody can tackle anybody? Think about Baylor years where Baylor's just cooking us. West V is cooking us. Texas Tech cooking us, right? How about the year that quarterback at TCU takes his 70 to the house on us and nobody can catch him? That's like 2 or 3 years ago, right? Crazy. Not anymore. Safety group's strong. Safety group's smart. Safety group's physical. That safety group are enforcers. Powers will knock your head off. Boggs will knock your head off. RSJ will knock your head off. And Peyton has shown over the course of his first, I believe this is his second year. It's his second or third year. Very, very, very strong open field tackler. I think Gullery came into the season as an unknown. Did you guys hear after the Michigan game, they said he was probably one of the best freshman corners in America? I think he has earned the rep as one of the very best freshman corners in America. He's going to get a chance to really earn that. We haven't played against a team that wants to throw the ball consistently and put a lot of pressure on him or put him on a true island. Go see Tennessee. Tennessee's going to put them on true islands, run that RPO stuff, and those guys are going to be 2 yards outside the numbers and slant fade curl option. And that's going to be we're going to get a chance to see if he's really who we think he is. But I'm going to say this, and I just believe it in the bottom of my heart. I am concerned about that other corner position if Gentry can't go. Hall of Fame. I loved the way he played against McCulley or whatever that guy's name was. Oh my God. By the way, McCulley housed him a few times. They were chippy. I'm sure you guys saw it. They were fighting. But he housed that guy. Oh, it made me feel so good because I know what it feels like to be in those battles. Ooh, I had a battle with Gary Baxter. Gary Baxter's an NFL dude. Baylor, back in the day, he played for the Ravens for 7-8 years. And he tried to punk me. Like, there are games where the DB is going to try to punk you and let you know, like, don't even go hard because if you do, I'm going to sun you. Nah, hell nah. We ain't playing that. And I just loved that Guillory had that kind of energy as a true freshman. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. If you noticed, they didn't pick on him. So they watched the same film of the games that we've watched. They went at Dobie, which they should have. Dobie's coming off an injury. Dobie's a hole defender in the past. Now he's playing on the outside. Dobie was giving away a little bit. By the way, he was giving up 7-yard out, so he's not giving up like 15-yard whatevers. But like he wanted to play it safe, which I get. But the defense will be championship caliber, championship level if we get Gentry to stay healthy. Gentry stays healthy. Obviously, Eli returns. We had a Jacoby Johnson. We had a sighting of Jacoby. By the way, I think Jacoby's a guy we're going to need before the year is up. 6'1", long, rangy guy. The book on him is that he's ultra talented, just not so much a dog. And I think this year the team is thematically looking for dudes who want to be junkyard dogs. And so that's why he's kind of dipped a little. But there's going to be LSU. There's going to be Tennessee. Who's another team we play that I just added? There's going to be Bama, right? Ole Miss. All four of those teams have 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", long-armed, thicker receivers that we're going to need a bigger corner to run with. And I wouldn't be surprised if his number gets called. We just need Gentry to stay healthy. Knock on wood to see if that happens. But here's the beauty. Depth. You guys notice I brought up Guillory. I brought up Dobie. I brought up Gentry. I didn't even bring up our best corner from last year, Eli Bowen. Guys, we have depth at all three levels on defense. All three. All right, yeah. The rumors is that he was a healthy scratch, or I'm talking about Gentry. Yeah, I think if it was a big game, he could have played. I even heard Fasusi could have played if it was really, really needed. But against this team, get those guys some extra rest so that they could be ready to go for SEC ball. DBs, 86. I'm ready for those guys to get a damn turnover. Tackled well, check. Physicality, check. Assignment football, no busts, no blown coverages, check. Looked really clean. I wouldn't necessarily call it championship caliber, but I definitely feel like those guys are playing great. All right, last but not least, coaching. I think this is the first time since Lincoln's years on one side of the ball, and the first time since like Bob and Wilson years, was that like 08, 09, that we've had the coaching advantage so evidently in all three games. At the end of the day, we severely outcoached Michigan. And they were afraid to let their freshmen loose. At the Illy State game, obviously, and then even in this game, you could tell the coaches schemed Temple. You guys could tell this was a regular game week and not a week 0, week 1 opponent where we're like, nope, this is kind of like an extension of camp. Go out there and run our stuff, regardless of what they do, run the play. That's what they used to do to us week 1. Like, you got to just run it. You could tell they intentionally prepared for Temple. Guys, I think both OC and DC hit it out of the park. DC better than OC on the offensive side of the ball. I'd say for Arbuckle, it's probably an 86. For BV, it's probably a 95, just because at all three levels they were so clean. I do want to critique Arbuckle on a couple of things. Number one, late in the second quarter, we're running the ball with authority, something we haven't consistently done in, 3 years, since maybe Levy's first year, right? And Blaylock is getting some good stuff cooking, then we go away from it. I hated it. By the way, it's only my personal opinion, right? The stuff is there. Material's just a little off on some of his pace and his accuracy, but it would have been really nice to continue to give the ball to Blaylock and just give the offensive line, you know what I'm saying, some confidence on just leaning on people. I think that's one critique. And then the other thing that I want to critique him on, and again, I'm not critiquing him like he sucks. I'm not critiquing him like I'm second guessing him. I'm just saying wonderings. It would have been nice to see more progression stuff for Mateer later in the game, just to get him back on track. We ran a lot of quick game and a lot of we're running this play to get this individual person the ball versus we're going to run this play anticipating this defensive coverage, and you've got a first read, a second read, third read, hit the read, right? And maybe that's some O-line stuff. Maybe they didn't feel comfortable with Howland. That could be part of it. Maybe the game was just such that they didn't need to. So why, you know what I'm saying, test it. But just something that I saw that I wish I would have seen him clean up, because he was so good at it the first 2 weeks. I mean, he was nails. But on the strategic side, guys, give me BV with a 95. Give me Arbuckle with a 96. I've been on for a minute and an hour and a minute. I'm going to hang around for about 5 or 6 more minutes. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll show some love, shout you guys out, and answer as many as I can. I'm not an insider. I don't even really communicate. I mean, if I need to make a phone call for whatever reason, there are people on the program that I can talk to or get information about. I'm not trying to get recruiting stuff. I'm not trying to, get injury reports or whatever, right? That's not my thing. I like to analyze the games as I see them and give my feedback for my purview. So don't ask me any of that stuff. I'm not the guy. Ask Parker, ask Brandon. Don't ask me that stuff. But anyway, any questions, guys? I'll hang around about 5 more minutes. I appreciate you guys. First live 10 thoughts. If you guys enjoyed it, if you enjoyed this, these comments, they don't stick around when it publishes and goes live. Post in the chat that you prefer I do it like this, because I can do it like this moving forward versus typing it out or doing it another way. And this will be how we do it moving forward. I really, really, really. Okay. So there's the first question. First things first. Yeah. I had not talked about in fact, I didn't even mention them. And sometimes you speak about somebody when you don't speak about them, right? Here's the thing, guys. It's not physical enough yet. I don't know if it's a level of physicality. I don't know if it's a situation where he still is shunning because of some of his injuries in the past. I will say what I heard, but here's what I heard. All right. He's afraid to get re-injured. I also believe culturally, and I don't mean culturally like racial or even regional, I don't think, but just I think the makeup of the team was pretty much set before he came, and he feels like an outsider. He didn't come through fall camp and spring practice, right, and kind of get entrenched with the team like everyone else did. He came a little bit later. And so I think from a cultural standpoint, he isn't like a my brother yet. I also think he hasn't had success. I think the guy scores a 30-yard touchdown, accelerates and makes something great happen, and then boom, I think it's all good. But I think that little tizzy is there because here's the deal. He looks timid to me. I watch his film. Film looks amazing. Cal, oh, man. Hell yeah, he was worth every penny. Georgia wanted him. So he's not a bust. I think the mental aspect, and I think the connection to the team. The other thing is I hear he's not a willing blocker. And maybe last year, that would have been good enough because we saw Barnes was pretty much the only guy who was willing to consistently block. But this year, you see Blaylock stepping up and sticking his nose in there. You see X-Rob stepping up and sticking his nose in there. And X-Rob's a 2, right? So I think Ott's a guy who's got to show he's willing to block. I think Ott's a guy who just needs one. He catches a screen and takes it 40, even if he doesn't score. I think that really helps his confidence. But right now, You're asking my opinion. I think we got to be grateful that Blaylock is overachieving because Odd is definitely underachieving. 100%. I think this team is. I don't predict losses. So last year, what I said is I'm not going to predict losses, but I anticipate there's going to be a couple games we find it would lose. Obviously, we lost more than we won at the end of the season. I don't know that there's a game if we play our best and our opponent plays their best that we would definitely lose. If we play our best, I think we can beat everybody on the schedule. People asked me, I said 9-3. 9-3, 10-2 is where I am at. Just in terms of if you made me, bet my lunch money, my milk money. But I am not going to, there isn't a game that I'm going to say this year going into that game, damn, we're probably going to lose, which I did that a couple times last year. Tuscaloosa against Bama is going to be one where it's going to be interesting. Tennessee and Knoxville. By the way, they invited me to that game. I told them I'm not going to that game because I would definitely go on their dime and be voting for OU, right? So I was like, nah, I can't go to that game. I think I'm going to go to their game against Bama, actually, which is going to be pretty cool. Talk to their freshmen and then watch the game from their sideline. But yeah, I feel good about Ole Miss. I feel good about Mizzou. I feel good about LSU. LSU is beatable, and Nussmeier is overrated. 100%. 100%. Danny Okoye is raw. Go back and watch Illy State. I said this in our post game against Illy State. I think he has the most tools out of all the guys. But I think he's a guy. I think it's one more year. I'll say something else too. I think his position coach is the one who's still learning the nuances on the fly. And so you're not going to see guys come in brand spanking new who are raw and kill it. PJ is another example. I have no beef with Chavis. He's doing a hell of a job. By the way, go recruit me studs and let's learn how to figure it out. But if you flip the roles and the D tackles are being coached up, you know what I'm saying? And Chavis is taking, they switch those roles. I think the D ends are just technically, when I talked to Lance said Mackey, because Lance was the analyst for the D line. Even though Lance was a backer, he was the D line analyst. And he said, bro, your boy was the best I've ever seen at just being a technician, teaching these guys the technique. Right. And I think Chavis is still earning his chops. By the way, he's got some RMT and a bad person to have coming out the gates. Marvin Jones is coming in and playing substantially better than he did at Florida State. I think Okoye is a guy who next year could be better than both. Based upon his body type, his athleticism, and his explosion. He's got a lot of that stuff. Somebody blocked you, Madrona? I don't know, bro. I technically suck. They just told me to press play, and yeah, so I didn't block you, dog. I promise you. Yes, batted balls is a concern. Pisses me off that Keontae doesn't get more juice for the Michigan game. He whoops ass against that DB twice, and we throw a sidearm ball with no air versus a ball over the top. That's probably a touchdown or at least juice. Yeah. Mateer is a guy who his arm angles concern me a little bit, especially throwing the ball from tackle to tackle. I think the SEC are going to have teams that say, hey, if you as a tackle get stoned, just stop and wait because the ball's coming. And definitely going to be opportunities for guys to do that. Who's the worst team in the SEC? It's not Vandy. You know what I'm saying? Man, Kentucky found a way. Kentucky could have beat Ole Miss last week. I watched that game. The SEC, there's a lot of really good teams right in the middle. If you made me pick today, unfortunately, I probably pick Kentucky because of quarterback play. The quarterback isn't overly athletic. He's a solid player, but I think Kentucky's going to struggle. Head coach at Vandy's got those guys playing ball. Sellers doesn't go out, they still could lose. Vandy was the better team, whether Sellers plays or not. Sellers may have been good enough to make magic happen because he's that dynamic of a player. But I would probably err on the side of Kentucky or Archie. Those would be the two that I would say. Let's see. What if they put Ott in the slot? Satania is a damn good player, and if Satania's hurt, they're going to move Burks and then put somebody else as the receiver position is one that I think is the cupboard is not as bare as it was in years past. By the way, 88, you know what I'm saying? 88's a dude. I don't care what nobody says. I like him. So I think Ott just needs to make a decision on if he wants to. He's at OU. We take our football very seriously. If he wants to be a guy known for stealing money, his reputation down the road will be a guy who stole money from OU, and fair enough, he earned it based upon his prior exploits. But he's got to want it, and he's got some comp. The freshman came and put everybody else on notice. X-Rob had some skins on the wall from last year, and then Barnes is Barnes, right? His position coach just happened to play at the same high school as he. So hey, bro, you got to deal with the obstacles in front of you. He's got to figure out a way to make it happen. Let's see. Who else we got? D-Mac, when the team started taking more chance in the pass. Yep. OU's pass rush. I was saying this on our post game, guys. If you go watch this, by the way, this goes back to BV. My years, It's a controlled rush. BV is a one gap coach. Hey, 0, you got backside A. 3, you got backside A. 0, you got play side A. Mike, you got play side B. Safety, you got alley. Corner, you've got contain. DN, you got line contain, right? When BV creates pressure, it's designed for somebody to make it. If you guys notice, there aren't very many plays where BV will just turn guys loose. On some 3rd and longs where we're backing up, yep, the forefront is going to be able to go loose, and that's when RMT can cook. But more often than not, our defense is designed to cancel a gap. And because of that, you're not going to see our guys go, just trying to freestyle it to get to the quarterback, because that opens up lanes, and BV wants to be gap sound. So I don't think it's a coincidence that you don't see a ton of 12, 13 sack guys, especially in games where, right, we are really controlling the line of scrimmage and things of that nature on their run game. We want to keep them in positions where we don't give up big plays. And how do you give up big plays against screens? How do you give up big plays against misdirection? How do you give up big plays against pump and go, right? Somebody gets out leveraged. The DN crosses face and they let the quarterback leak out to the field. Now he's got 5 seconds to survey the field with nobody in his face. BV doesn't like that. And so it's more so designed, if you guys notice on Saturday, right? Powers came in clear, right? That scheme. Gilmore comes in clear. Gilmore, and I think it's Powers, come play side, the right side of the offense, and the tackle had to pick. Of the two he picked, it was the safety. I don't know if it was Powers or RSJ or somebody, but Gilmore comes in clean. That's schemed. That's not like, oh, Gilmore whooped his man. He didn't. The man had to pick one of the two, and the man took the inside guy. BV brought more than they could block on that side, so the free guy has to make the play. We're much more so a defense to do that, because it's literally a run blitz to the quarterback versus blitzing and then potentially leaving huge gaps behind you if you don't get home, right? So just be mindful of that. Again, the one caveat I'd say against that is when we're in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, then we've got backers sitting at 6 and everybody's backing up, keeping the ball in front of them. Then he'll let those guys turn it loose. But more often than not, we don't have our DNs trying to sack the quarterback. They're doing their assignment. If it leads you to the ball, tackle ball. Yep. Mississippi State looks good. I agree. D-Mac, tell me what you think of this. Barnes lacks a lot of running back, but I think Barnes should have been Barnes should not be a receiver. Don't do that. See, now you trying to make me make jokes. Barnes is playing well within the position they have him at now. I am very comfortable with how they are using him. And if he trots out, I think Blaylock trots out there first, to be honest with you guys, against Auburn, just because I think he showed on film and in that game that he could block competently, but I think they want the threat. They are aware that Barnes takes away the ability to hit a home run because they don't have him running the home run plays anymore. So they are aware of the fact that there's another guy out there that can do that. But I don't hate Barnes. last year, new year, new me. If and when we lose a game, it'll be because of underwhelming run game, relying too much on the pass, one-dimensional, quick series. Our defense spends too much time on the field. Shooting McGavin last year hasn't come yet. I would say we improved in the run game every game this season, and so undoubtedly we're going to come up against adversity. Undoubtedly, people are going to try to force us to do what they think is our weakness. We're going to have to figure out ways to counter that. All right. And you're right. There are going to be games where we need to run the ball. We're going to see if we can run the ball when we need to. Here's a saving grace. And I promise you this. I don't care what nobody says. There are not a lot of fronts better than Michigan's. I've watched a lot of SEC teams this year. Georgia's defensive front is not better than Michigan's. Hell no. Tennessee's defensive front was not better than Michigan's. Bama's defensive front is not better than Michigan's. I haven't watched Ole Miss's defense as much. I watched a little bit of the game, but I can't remember. Who else is one of the big boys? Florida, hell no. LSU's got some second level defenders, Perkins and Witt. Those, they've got some dudes. But guys, Michigan is about as good as we're gonna see. Texas has got some dudes too, right? Texas has got Hill and a couple of those other guys. Right, the kid from Duncanville is overrated. But I believe. Here's what I think. Our ROC is going to find the plays that we work well, and he's going to do a good enough job scheming the teams that are going to give us a chance to run the stuff that we need to run. That's what I believe. Does that mean it's always going to work and we're going to execute it perfectly? It doesn't. But I don't believe we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and see if it'll stick. I believe we're going to have nuanced this offense enough and know our personnel well enough to say, hey, these are the things that we're going to be able to use. And also, you've got to count jet sweeps as runs. You've got to count those edge screens as runs. You've got to count those tunnel screens and quick screens as runs. Those are complement the run game, keep the defense honest, and plays that we're designing to help because we can't just turn around and run the football at everybody. So I do understand where that reservation comes from. I am optimistic about us having an OC that has a pivot, has a plan B. So we'll see how that goes. Two more, and then we'll jump out of here. I really like that question, though. I like seeing Kearney. Yes, that, by the way, he looks like an SEC receiver too. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't think we have a burner. Satania is not a burner. He's quick and elusive, and he can probably take it to the house, I believe, if he gets behind the defense. Burks also can take it to the house, but I mean, a guy who stretches teams, we don't have that. Let's see what Giovanni can do. Ohio State, I'm not a Big Ten guy, y'all. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Although Ohio State's really damn good. Chris, I don't know if you heard our post-game pod. I'm gonna give the hot take here that I gave there. This is just my opinion and my belief. I believe Reggie Powers has the highest ceiling of all of our safeties. His body type, his aggression, and his acceleration. It's what the NFL is looking for in a safety. I think Powers is a guy, and I don't want to blow him up too much. If you guys go back and watch 3 years ago, I said that Kip and RSJ, I watched one game, Texas, and we're getting beat. This the year we had the kid, forgot his name, we transferred him from Pitt, and he like tears his ACL in one of those plays. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Those guys play a quarter, but their football instinct just jumped off the page at me. And it's like 10 plays. Reggie Powers, he has the body type, 6'1", 215. He has the aggression. He plays through the hips for sure. And I haven't seen him be a mental space cadet. Now, I say that saying this, Kendall Daniels is a freak to me. And I am super impressed by the fact somebody that big can turn and run and get out of his hips the way he does. I think Kendall Daniels is a linebacker in the NFL, and I think he plays in the NFL. I think Dobie is your prototype safety. I think he has a higher ceiling than Peyton. I think he's a little more fluid than RSJ. Boggs is a heat-seeking missile, but I think Boggs COD, and he has a high ceiling too. Powers being that tweener who plays at the cheetah position, there's something about it. Could be that 13 though, right? I could be just being biased because he wears 13. No, I'm actually being honest. I don't care if he wore 19. Powers Powers has been impressive. He's been impressive. For sure. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys for jumping on with me tonight. I had no idea it was going to be an hour and 20 minutes. Barry's going to be pissed. But I enjoyed the hell out of you guys. 116 of you guys on with us right now or on with me right now. I think I like doing it this way. Last question. Should I do 10 thoughts? So I have traditionally done 10 thoughts after the game on Saturday night or Saturday day. Would you guys prefer it be a Sunday deal? Or it's the day after everybody's had a chance to kind of, marinate in the game? Or would you prefer I do it Saturday after the game? I've even done them late night, even if the game was late. You guys tell me what you want. I do this. This is a passion project, guys. I think we've gotten paid doing this, which is crazy. We've gotten sponsorships and all kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. We got licensed. Now we're part of OU Insider. Pretty cool stuff. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys for tapping in with me. 10 thoughts, Temple week. Going into Auburn, I'm calling it the semi-rivalry week. Looking forward to seeing Jackson Arnold. You guys have a good night. Shout out to OU Insider. Go subscribe over there. Great community. Have conversations about ball. I'm over there. Barry's over there. Those guys do an excellent job. But support the channel, man. We're almost at 2,000 subs. Let's get that done by this week. And we'll see you guys for the mid-game. On Wednesday, we'll be doing our midweek report going into Auburn. Have a good night. God bless. Kiss your babies. Take care.